Hello and welcome to The Radical. I'm Christina.
And I'm Nicole. On our podcast, we delve into the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
That's right, Nicole. Our podcast is all about exploring those fundamental truths and practices that nourish your mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, Christina, we want to make metaphysical concepts easy to understand and accessible, especially for those who don't have a ton of time to do all the research.
Right? We'll do the research as well as share our experiences and perspectives, hoping to empower you, our listener, to find balance and magic in your day-to-day.
Inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root, let's explore the roots of well-being and self-healing together.
This is The Radical with Christina and Nicole, two metaphysical girls in the material world.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, Nicole.
We are talking about Virgo today, and we're so excited to talk to you about what Virgo is all about, why it matters to you, and then we're going to wrap up today's podcast episode with some oracle cards. Me and Christina both have a deck that we want to share with you. And I just want to kick off this episode saying that if you believe in astrology, then you might believe that even though you're not a Virgo or have Virgo in your chart, that the collective energy is still available and influences all of us. And if you don't believe in astrology, you might listen today to hear the lessons of Virgo season and maybe choose to theme your self-reflections around some of what Virgo has to offer you.
I love that introduction. That is Virgo. That's what we're talking about today. Virgo, is it all work and no play? Did you see that? I picked that.
I did. Yes.
And I might be one of the ones. I pulled out my birth chart in preparation for this podcast, and I don't have any Virgo, but I have some Virgo stories, and I have some things that I have in common. So we'll cover that soon. But I want to talk about our list. Dun, dun, dun. The beginning. So the season of Virgo. Okay, so this is in the tropical western. It is August 22nd to September 22nd in this year of 2024. I want to say that the energy of September is going to bring a new moon in Virgo on September 2nd. That is going to be a powerful, powerful manifestation new moon. Then in September 17th, a super harvest moon. I love the harvest time of year. September 21st and the 22nd is Mabon. If you follow the wheel of the year, that represents a time of balance and harmony where day and night are equal. So here we are. We started the astrological new year in Aries with the vernal equinox, the spring equinox, and now we're at the fall or autumnal equinox. We're 6 months into this astrological year, and we're back at that point where day and night are equal. So what else happens in September? Back to school. Making lists, starting classes, planning the future. But I feel like even if you don't have any, if you yourself are not involved in academic purposes or you don't have anybody around you who are, this also marks the transition from that end of summer into the shifting of the season into the cooler months. The summer heat begins to lessen. Today, my door is open next to me as we record this, and it feels fantastic. And I love the harvest festivals. Do you know what happens in September? Oktoberfest. Are you an Oktoberfest fan?
I actually went to the 200th anniversary of Oktoberfest in Munich. I purchased the lederhosen and completely decked myself out, and
Oh my
it was a lot of
gosh.
fun. It was a good time.
So, so I have two dirndls. Those are the ladies' dresses, the ladies' dresses. But I've seen a lot of women wearing the lederhosen. I think it is so cute and so cool. The last job I had, the past two Oktoberfest, we dressed up, and it was so fun. This year, no job. I think I'm still gonna dress up and do something. Maybe that'll be the trip I come to visit you. I'll be dressed up in my. I'll be dressed up I have my little dog Michael and his lederhosen, and I'll be in my dirndl, and we'll come and visit you.
That sounds perfect. I'll have to dig mine out of storage. It's kind of funny that we both don't drink anymore, but we can still
Right.
dress up
Oh,
and have
absolutely.
a bratwurst and have a great time.
Absolutely. My favorite things are the pretzels, the sauerkraut, and I love the German style potato salad. Sorry, it took me I was seeing it in my mind's eye.
Yes.
But yeah, it's interesting how so many things revolve around harvest. Okay, so that is the end of the summer. So the harvest festivals marking the time of year where we are celebrating the fruits of the land. So whether that is things made with wheat, or whether that's things made with grapes, or things made with potatoes, it's all good. It's an all reason to celebrate. And then the other thing with the Virgo energy is motivating us to fulfill our obligations to ourselves and our community. So that makes sense that we would have these lovely community events during this time of year. People are probably just ready to get out of their houses and do a little celebrating when the weather's a little not so intense. And the other element of Virgo energy is one of order, light colors, finding pleasure in small everyday details, and developing values related to coherence and effort. So, this is where we talk about Virgo, all fun and no play. Sometimes Virgos can get a little too into the day to day details and, dare I say, perfectionism. But
Mm.
there's a beauty in focusing on small details. So, more on that in a little bit. The ruling planet is Mercury for communication and intelligence. Element is Earth. Element is practical, loyal, grounded, and reliable. And Virgos are the most practical, methodical, and organized of the Earth signs. So, lucky you if you're a Virgo. I love organizing. Their quality is mutable. Polarity is negative and yin. Virgo rules the sixth house. The sixth house. I don't know why that's a little hard for me to say. Health, job, and daily routines. So that's routine, work, obligations, and duty, and maternal relations, enemies, debts, and disease. Did you see that on the sixth house? What did you find on that?
I always thought sixth house was health, job, routines, but the flip side of health is disease, and our routines include our obligations. So it makes sense that debt is included there, and enemies. That's really interesting. That's a new one for
it's
me.
it's so interesting how you when you're doing research you find and you dig up and you look and you read and you find another somebody else's point of view, somebody else's interpretation, and then something just jumps out at you and you're like, oh, well, of course, because just like you said, Nicole, it's related to health, so of course it's related to disease. It's related to
Hmm.
job, so of course it's related to debt. So I guess that's sort of like the shadow side of the sixth house.
Hmm. Yeah.
The constellation Virgo is the second largest constellation in the sky. It's one of the oldest, and it's associated with various goddesses and female deities related to fertility in the fields. So the constellation itself is a woman holding a spike, which can be interpreted as a flower, a wheat shaft, I think over here we're going to talk about a date palm, that a female holding something in her hands. Also, the Virgo is a cluster, and it's the largest grouping of galaxies visible from the Earth. So, if that sparks any of your interest in the skies above, look up the Virgo constellation. A lot more on that. So, the symbol, as I said, is the maiden, generally for Virgo, and going all the way back to Babylonian astrology, Virgo was called the furrow and represented by their grain goddess, Shala, holding an ear of barley. But also, there's another goddess, oh goodness, Arua, holding a date palm. So date palms and bread, which goes hand in hand with, generally, in the Virgo season begins the season of harvest, the beginning of harvest festivals, the beginning of bringing in everything off the fields. The glyph of Virgo, and most people might recognize that because if you type in Virgo into your smartphone, it brings up a little purple box with an M with a little loop at the bottom of it. That is the Virgo glyph. M with the loop represents the serpent's head, a serpent's head burrowing into the earth, which is tied to fertility. But also, if we talk about more of the characteristics of Virgo, it has to also do with turning your awareness and your intention inward. All right, tarot card, the Hermit.
Yay.
At the
I
beginning of
love the
the
Hermit so
Mhm.
much.
At the beginning of this year, I had the Hermit card a lot, and it made sense because I was on a very big journey for myself that I started in January. So, generally, the Hermit is soul searching, analysis, solitude, introspection, meditation, and cautiousness, but using your inner light as a beacon for others, which is lovely to think about. Truth is cultivated when focus is turned inward, and live quietly for a while.
I love that this card is associated with wisdom as
Mm-hmm.
well. And when you can spend quiet time in meditation or introspection, it's really about getting in touch with your own personal inner wisdom. And I love that. And I feel like too, Christina, the Hermit has very much represented my personal journey.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say it was just this year, but I think really since like 2021, I've had a lot of Hermit themes in my life.
In one of my decks, it's a turtle. In one of my
Mm,
decks, the Hermit is a young witch, a young woman holding her lantern out, getting ready for a journey. Or
hmm.
is she turning around and going home? You don't know. That's the beauty of our tarot cards.
Do you read reverse meanings of
I
tarot
do.
cards? You do. So I just wanted to share kind of a funny little story. So this kind of touches on, in our last episode, we were talking about astrology as a whole. And I mentioned how critics sometimes say you're not intelligent if you let these outer phenomena control you. And I used to really want clear answers from tarot and from my oracle cards. And so as I was looking at the Hermit card, the reverse meaning can be either you've been alone for too long, it's time to go back out into the world, or it can mean you're afraid of alone time, you're afraid of spending
Oh.
time with yourself. And I just had a thought that the me from a couple years ago would have found that either or, like, it's up to you, you need to figure it out, very frustrating.
Right?
but but it kind of goes back to this idea that, you know, oracle cards, tarot cards, just how we mentioned in the last episode on astrology, they're not there to control you. They're there to offer a message. And ultimately, it's your inner wisdom that guides you to the correct interpretation for yourself.
One of my favorite decks has a question that it asks you, or you ask yourself, to bring balance or healing to your reverse cards. To me, that has been very it has been fantastic the way it has helped me with reading my own cards. The question, asking yourself the question, because generally I've learned that it's the reverse. So here you go. One, it says live quietly for a while. So what does that mean? Live loudly for a while? Go crazy for a little while? That cannot be the correct. You know what I'm saying? It can't be a literal reverse, not for me in my scenario. So the question for the Hermit in this wonderful deck that I love is, how can I put myself first?
Mm.
And the questions are fantastic. I mean, and you can develop your own questions, just what comes to your mind, instead of looking for an answer. You know, what is it that I wrote it here? The Socratic method, answering a question with another question, and then a question with another question until you dig all the way down to the root of your hesitation or your resistance or your issue with that card or with the healing that you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I do love a good reverse card at the right time with the right questions. The chakra for Virgo is the Vishuddha, the throat chakra, because they're tied to Mercury. Day is Wednesday, also tied to Mercury. Ooh, number is 5 for change.
Ooh.
Body parts, I'll just touch on it because we're going to talk about it a little bit more, is abdomen, intestines, spleen, and the central nervous system. The colors are these beautiful autumnal colors, green, dark brown, and navy blue. So during this season, I think we all just kind of gravitate toward dressing like the colors that we see outside. I do.
Yeah, those are very earthy colors. You know, the green, the
Yeah.
dark brown,
Oh,
navy blue.
I
Those bring me
love it.
so much coziness.
Yes, yes. Okay, well, that is our little list right there.
In terms of describing Virgo energy, some of the high vibration qualities are methodical, organized, rational, and stable. And then for the low vibration, Virgo can be critical, non innovative. I think of it as in school, for example, you get your outline for a project and trying to stay in that outline rather than innovating
Yeah.
and getting creative. So it's kind of like literal energy, and then literal can be almost to a fault as well if you don't let your creative juices flow. Virgo helps teach us self-acceptance and balance. The idea of who are we today and who do we want to be tomorrow? Where are we now and where are we going? And I love this idea that Virgo energy really doesn't have any interest in self-criticism or comparing ourselves to our vision of who we want to be. It's very accepting. And that ties back into this idea of perfectionism, I
Hmm.
think. And one of the big lessons that I'm taking from Virgo season is what's good enough. I think this has kind of come up for me in working on this podcast. It's my desire to be perfect
Right.
and not have filler words and not say and say the perfect thing at the perfect time.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, who I am today, I'm a beginner at this. I have never, except for the first couple episodes we've done, I've never done this before. And I would love to grow into somebody who feels like this comes to me supernaturally and I excel at this. But for today, what I need to work on is accepting that my efforts are good enough,
Yeah.
even though they don't quite meet my perfectionist standard. So it's playing with that idea of what's good enough. And I think even I didn't write this down, but tying back to our first episode talking about the 4 agreements, getting clear on what does your best really mean.
Get out of my
And
head, Nicole. I was just thinking that.
yeah, that's a really beautiful tie-in. So, my best today I can give. I can't give the best based on this future arbitrary definition of what I think I should be doing, or like where I think I should be.
I looked at it as integration. So it's not just about making lists and ensuring everything is in order for me, because as you just said, always doing your best changes moment to moment and day by day. So what I'm taking from the Virgo energy is to be integrated and being very, very present and very, very aware of what I'm doing, even if it seems very simple and very mundane and not very dynamic or not very important. But
Mm-hmm.
have you heard the Zen Buddhist chop wood, carry water?
I believe that's a book. I've heard of it.
It popped into my head, and then I just captured enough information to kind of like give myself some background here. But doing the simple things with your whole heart, being completely present and completely integrated, is how you achieve enlightenment, because you are chopping wood and carrying water before, you're going to be chopping wood and carrying water during, and you're going to be chopping wood and carrying water after. So the lesson to Virgo for me is not all work, no play. It's that the work and the play can find that balance between the two, that do both very present and staying in the moment and doing your best. Even if you're carrying a bucket of water, do your best.
Mm-hmm.
So integration, presence, and the beauty and simplicity, being wholly present in your daily tasks.
Which can sometimes be easier said than done. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
sometimes feel myself get swept away and I'm not being present anymore. And presence is really the greatest gift we can give each other in whatever it is we're engaging in, whether that's
Yeah.
work or our kids. Virgo rules the digestive and nervous systems. Christina touched on this in the first segment, the body parts being the abdomen, the intestines, the spleen, the area of our digestive organs, and the central nervous system. I was thinking for myself, when I'm dysregulated in my nervous system, or when my digestion is off, that is a very clear signal to me that I need to slow
Mm,
way down.
yeah.
It's really easy for me to, for example, skip lunch. I'm like, no, I really want to finish this to-do list before I take a break, right? And that's me getting swept away in the doing. And I need to slow down and focus on my being state and being present. And
Yeah.
if and being present too means listening to your body. So my goodness, if I need to stop and eat,
Right?
um, I need to stop and eat. It's easy for me to shove that to the wayside.
I love we talk about balancing the Virgo energy. And if you have too much of the Virgo energy, too much of the sense of, if it's not perfect, then what's the point? So we want to not let perfect get in the way of good. So movement is very good for Virgo energy. If you're in your head and you're on your to-do list and you skipped your lunch, and you know what the best thing to do is, move for movement's sake. Walk, sit outside, put your stuff down, do 5 minutes of sun salutations, do 5 minutes of a walk. I used to be, if I can't practice for 90 minutes in a heated room, then what's the point of even doing yoga? I've long let go of that. So, movement for
Mm-hmm.
movement's sake. Play a little bit, don't have a plan, just put on some music and move around your house, even. But Don't move because you're ticking a box of today's leg day. Nope. Let that go just for a little bit. Just move and get into your body.
Yeah. And because Virgo is the organizer energy, and because Virgo is tied to the sixth house of health, job, work, obligations, and our daily routines, it's a really great time of year to check in with those topics in your life.
Yeah.
And it's a great time to schedule your breaks, your routines. It's a good time to try something new like a yoga class, reading a book, getting a massage, some energy work, a walk in nature. But the key with Virgo energy is scheduling it, making it
Yeah.
part of your calendar. And if you don't have a routine, maybe it's time to start one. If you have a routine, maybe check in and see if anything needs to change or be added or something you can let go of. But really making a point to schedule it in the way you would a meeting or a
Yeah.
doctor's appointment.
Yeah. Embrace the power of the list. If you've got that low Virgo energy, help yourself get organized. Write down things you've already done and check it off. The power of the list. It's very healing for me.
I looked at my birth chart too, and I
I
know
did
Christina.
too.
Yeah. I have one sign or one planet, I mean, in Virgo, and my Venus is in Virgo, but it's in the fall. In astrological terms, a planet is in its fall when it is in a sign where it operates with more difficulty or it's less comfortable. So there's definitely, I don't want to use the terms good and bad, but a fall does have challenges associated with it, whereas exaltation is more favorable. There's more ease with that placement.
How
So
about that?
the fall for me, for Venus in Virgo, means that I can be maybe a little critical or detail oriented when it comes to matters of the heart, matters of love, have
Hey,
high standards. I can see that. Again, this fall does bring challenges, but the strengths are a strong sense of devotion, a desire for self improvement, and a practical approach to love. It's more of
aw.
that, mental, a little bit more methodical, thinking with your head instead of your heart. And I gotta say, I think that shoe fits a little bit, Christina.
How about that? How about
Yeah.
that? What a interesting that's so fantastic that you were able to share that and be so open and reflective about that information.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any planets in Virgo in my birth chart, but I share Mercury with Virgo. We both have Mercury as our ruling planets. So, what I do have is some placements in my sixth house. In two of my birth charts, I have my Sagittarius moon in the sixth house, which means I find safety and security in routines. And I mean, there's been a few phrases that have been true to me. That is one of the top 5 true statements: safety and security in routines. And then this is interesting. The way that I express my caring and my affection is through acts and service,
Mm.
which again is pretty spot on for me. That I like to be of service. I like to do things. I don't like to say things, but I will do something for you if I care about you. And
That's your love
also,
language.
yes, that's it. That was the love language. And I also have my Sagittarius Neptune in the 6th house. So Neptune is where you're kind of in your, I don't want to say anything incorrect, so I'm just going to read what I have on the paper. This manifests in my ideal. And my ideal, according to what I read, is verging on unrealistic and impractical, which is true. I can be honest and say that about routines. So I find comfort in routines. I need routines to feel safe. But then what my ideal routine is unrealistic.
Mm,
It
like you're
is,
trying to do too much.
or if it's not perfect, what's the point? That is a
Mm,
huge issue for me. That if
yeah.
I can't do a 2 hours in the gym, I'm not even going to go. If I can't, spend the day and have an hour in between my doctor's appointment and lunch, then I'm not even going to go to lunch. That kind of thing. That I need to be more of go with the flow. Oh, if I'm late for something, I won't even go.
Mm,
Like my unrealistic ideal situations can be a
yeah.
way that I sabotage myself. So I can totally
This,
see that.
yeah, this really ties into, Virgo asks us, what are we expecting from ourselves? And
Yes.
encourages us to ask, are our expectations unreasonable?
Yeah.
And this is kind of what I was talking about at the start of this segment is I can be very unreasonable and unrealistic. Like it's that perfectionist
Yeah.
mindset. I want it done perfectly. I want to say the perfect thing, do the perfect thing, and having to notch that down
Right?
and really start focusing more on, well, what's good enough?
Yeah.
Today I can't walk for an hour, I can walk for 30 minutes. So for today, that's my best, and that is
Yeah.
good enough. Most expectations come from us.
Yes. Yeah. I almost wanted to say all, but I'm like, not all, but most
Most.
expectations we put on
Mm-hmm.
ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And one more, my North Node in Scorpio is in the 6th house. So this was good for me learning through doing, which is very much how I learn. I love this bit. Listen to this. You believe in this great big thing that no one else believes in, or that everyone believes in. It's on you living day by day to learn whether this thing can be real or dreamed. It's like, yeah, yep, I can, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. And we'll cover North Node. I'll just say a little bit about it. Your North Node is where you are going, right? Nicole, you know a little bit more about this than I do.
The way I describe the nodes is your south node is kind of what you're walking away from. So whether that's patterns, character traits, and your north node is what Christina was saying, what you're walking towards. It's kind of the north star of your life,
Yeah.
and it is kind of the that directional type energy. So what lessons you're learning and what you're learning to kind of embrace in your life.
I loved that little bit that I read. And my North Node in Scorpio also is encouraging me to shed old skin, past patterns, and attachments. So, how I do things, how I'm learning things, and whether or not I can make it true or not, whether or not I can. But I love that either nobody believes it or everybody believes it. I was like, yeah, that's totally, I vibe that. I get that. And finally, my mom was a Virgo, or my mom is a Virgo. she's not very much into astrology, and growing up it wasn't really something that was a part of our awareness, but reflecting back I can see how her highs and lows have manifested in some of the traits and some of the characteristics of Virgo, that when she was balanced, when she was a little bit over here and a little bit over there, that I can see that. But I don't know. To my mom, my September mom, happy birthday if you're listening to this. And it's her birthday's coming up in just a couple weeks.
And my brother is he's an August Virgo. I see memes sometimes comparing an August and September Virgo, and I find them quite amusing. Something just popped into my head. It was actually in researching our last episode on Is Astrology Legitimate? There is a, I guess, theory in that odd numbered months, if you're born in an odd numbered month, you tend to be more outgoing
Oh,
and more of an extrovert. And if you are born in an even numbered month, you tend to be more introverted.
I have not heard that. That's an even month, so I'm more introverted. Since it's new information, we just need to start doing a poll of everybody we know.
We do. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that was such a good little bit there about Virgo. I'm so glad I got to learn more about my birth chart and learn more about Virgo with you.
I have pulled some cards for our last segment, Messages from the Universe.
Okay, I'm
And
ready.
and today I'm pulling 3 cards from a deck called Postcards from the Liminal Space. And this deck I really like. I call it my sassy deck. We'll see if anything sassy comes up. But again, I've pulled 3 cards. So just choose card 1, 2, or 3.
Okay, it's going to be 3 today. It just jumped right in my head.
Ooh, okay. So I'll read them now. The first one is padded room. And the image is a beach with a palm tree and a beach chair, but there's no people in the picture. So it's like just this beach scene. And the message for card 1, padded room, is due to unforeseen glitches or excessive software updates, the software has overwhelmed the hardware. Take a break to avoid overheating or worse, obsolescence.
Oh,
So I think this is some Virgo energy
yeah.
talking.
Obsolescence. That is such a that's such a fun concept to think about.
Yeah. And that is, I think, really strong Virgo messaging.
Yeah.
You can just try really hard to keep the status quo and keep things as they are. But if you don't change, then you do become
Yeah.
obsolete. If you do become overwhelmed, I kind of read this as like the software is our thinking and our programming, and then the hardware is our body. So have you
Yeah.
ever been so stressed out or the universe forces you into a break? You get
Yes.
sick and then you can't do
Yes.
anything because you're
Yeah.
sick. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Oh. I want to come and visit and look at that deck. When I'm wearing my Oktoberfest dirndl and bringing Michael and his lederhosen and we meet for lunch, bring that deck.
I will. So card 2 is the rhythms of fate and the tickings of time. And this image looks like you're sitting in a spaceship looking through the window down at Earth. The rhythms of fate and the tickings of time, these are the laws of nature by which all life abides. And they share the same goal, to continue forward motion no matter the circumstance. Tampering with either can be done in small amounts with great consequence, which can be as catastrophic as an explosion or as generational as water softening a stone over centuries. Working within these parameters with great passion will produce genius.
Hmm.
I came across this idea yesterday of harmony and kind of being in flow. And a lot of times I find myself pushing up against the natural flow of things. I want to exert what I think should be going on instead. But when we're coming up with plans and goals for the future, there are the rhythms of fate and the tickings of time. There are these natural laws that have a say so,
Yeah.
whether we like it or not.
Right?
Card 3 is the way home. And this looks like a, pirate's treasure map with an X marks the spot. And it says, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
Oh.
That was your card.
Oh. I love that.
Yeah. This is actually from the Bible.
Where your where your treasure is, there your heart will be.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
Oh, gosh. I love it. So we have a bonus. I have found while I was cleaning the bottom shelf of my, for lack of a better word, my altar bookshelf. I don't just have a table, I have a whole bookshelf of crystals and candles and plants and statues and singing bowls and salt lamps. And I found this deck. It's called Rabbit Rabbit, a Game of Superstitions, and we're going to play with it. So here's a little taste. I'm going to ask you a question, multiple choice, and then I'm going to tell you the answer.
Okay.
In Greece, plants and flowers will only take root and grow if they're A. Wished on, B. Gifted, C. Sung to, or D. Stolen.
I want to say C. The
Sung
singing.
to?
Yeah.
And I wanted to go with either wished on or gifted, but you know what the answer is? D. Stolen. Stealing plant cuttings is not only accepted, but encouraged. Isn't that lovely? So, as a plant person, I'm very conscientious and considerate when I see a plant or if I want to take a cutting from a plant. I generally will speak to the person or ask permission, but the in the plant world, the act of taking clippings, because taking a clipping doesn't damage the plant if it's done correctly, is something that's kind of like a low key way to share and like do plant swaps and propagate and kind of grow your collection of plants. But in Greece, they say go ahead and do it. You see a plant, take a piece and love it, take it home and take care of it.
I wonder if they use the word steal, if that's
I
their
know.
word or if that's our word.
What I was going to say is, what is their concept of stolen in quotation
Mm-hmm.
marks? What is the actual word? Yeah. So isn't that fun to think about? How
Mm-hmm.
we borrow, take, and whether or not, whether it be a plant cutting, um, or something else that is out in the world and how we interact with it. Stolen. Oh, we have to do a whole podcast on plants. It's coming.
Mm-hmm.
For hours, I can talk about plants. Plants and cats.
You were going to read the concept, I believe, for the card.
No, that's it.
Oh, okay.
That
Um,
last bit about concept, that was just my 2 cents.
um, so we were going to say the same thing. I love it.
Yes, we were going to say the exact same thing. The exact same thing. So, anyway, this is just me thinking about this deck. It's new and it's fun. And inside this box, I'm just holding up the box for Nicole to see. Just think about how many thousands of years and ages of information is inside here based on superstitions, old wives' tales, just all the kind of stuff that are kind of metaphysical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Things that people do, sometimes it has a reason and sometimes it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But here is a collection of all of that fascinating things that humans do in this world and why we do them.
Yeah.
Superstitions podcast coming.
The plant card that you drew also made me think about the Hawaiian language. I guess they have a different word for owning a pet, and it translates to being a steward of the
Aww.
animal. So you don't own the animal, but a steward meaning that this pet, this animal, has been entrusted to your care during its
Yeah.
life.
Oh, I love
So I
that.
just thought about that. That kind of made me think maybe the Greeks thought plants don't belong to us. We're just
Yes.
stewards and they're available to all people. So, of course, because I could never own this plant, I'm just a steward. I just take care of it. So, of course, you would be welcome
Yeah.
to take a clipping
Yeah.
and become a steward of that clipping.
Yeah. So there's some messages from the universe, some wisdom from the ages, and that is the end of our podcast on Virgo.
We will talk with you next time all about Libra.
Thank you for joining us. Everybody take care and be safe.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Radical. The Radical is written and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Listener questions can be emailed to us at theradicalpodnc@gmail.com.
Our Instagram is The Radical Pod.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music.